Hey guys, welcome back. This is Scott York and my buddy Flint Long for another video. Welcome back, Flint. What's going on?
Hey Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. So I know you got your website up for your piano boogie woogie rockin' lessons. Tell us what your website is.
It's flintlong.com. That's my name, FLINTLONG.com. I'm getting a lot of activity, people that want to play boogie woogie, you know, and so it's a lot of fun. I am happy to get orders for my little courses. I have $10 courses and a $20 course and a $30 collection of right-hand licks. They're blues and boogie woogie piano licks that they've been around for a long time, and also gospel and rock and roll licks. So
That,
yeah.
that is so exciting. As an entrepreneur, I've sold ebooks and DVDs and membership sites, and I love it when other people take their passion, package it, and then sell it. I love the old saying, create it once, sell it forever,
Yeah.
right? As
Yeah.
opposed, as opposed to going to a job every day, for 8 hours and trading your time for money. So you have learned how to package your expertise, your passion, and now you're selling it. So are these piano lessons, and are they digital downloads,
They are
MP3s?
digital downloads and they're video lessons so the people don't have to know how to read music. I like to think of myself as a piano coach more than a piano teacher.
Oh, I
And
like that. Yeah.
isn't it great, Scott, when you get somebody motivated that you're working with, somebody that just has their own drive and their own passion?
That's what it's all about. Well, good for you, man. I'm glad to hear that. I know this is going to be a growing empire, and we'll continue to check in.
Cool.
So let's start up with where we left off. So for you new viewers, we've got two videos already. Flint Long is a comedian, a professional performer, a piano player, boogie woogie, and he has traveled all over the world. He also is a very close friend of Joe and Betty Weider. Of course, Joe Weider passed away. Betty Weider, fortunately, is still with us. And, here we are in mid-May, and Betty has been all over the news, man. That just goes to show you can still kick ass. It doesn't matter how old you are. So Billie Ellis, am I saying her name right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
She's a singer-songwriter who's very popular with the younger generation. She had a Vogue cover shot magazine, and Billie dressed in the style of the 50s and Betty Weider, and she mentioned Betty Weider as her influence. So now here we are. Betty Weider is in the news here recently, and that's just so cool to see that.
Yeah. I talked to Betty about 3 nights ago, and she's real happy about that because her name has come up on 1,000 websites on account of that Vogue cover. And now there's a renewed interest in Betty. Oh, and I've got the most exciting thing to tell you. I don't know if I told you, but Betty did a record cover for V-Tone Records, and it was a boogie woogie record called Cow Cow Boogie. And she sent it to me because she knows I'm doing the Boogie Woogie website, and she said, "What do you think about this?" And I said, "Well, number one, I think it's great, and it's a great picture of you, but Betty, can I use it?"
Yeah,
She
of
said,
course.
yes. She said, yes. So it's going to be on my website, and it's a great figure picture of her, with the top and everything. And maybe I sent it to you. I think I
I
did.
have seen that picture. And audience, if you're listening, guys and girls, you got to go to Flint's website. Just, if nothing else, check out that picture once he gets that up. When will that be up?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to try to do it this afternoon.
So maybe give it a few days or a week, but he sent me the picture. It is awesome. And that was
Yeah.
so kind of her to let you use that. So she was the model of a Boogie Woogie album back in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
So she modeled for the cover of the record.
Yeah. She modeled for all kinds of stuff, for products and stuff. She wasn't just doing men's magazines or anything like that. When Joe was having lunch in New York with a colleague, I can't remember who it was. It might have been one of the guys in his office. He looked out the window and he saw a giant sign on a building for Kodak, and it was Betty. It was a picture of Betty Weider, Betty Brosmer at the time, posing. And he said, he was saying, I need a model like that one right there.
Wow.
And so the colleague helped to try to find Betty, and they found her. And they found out that somebody had hired her to be posing for Joe's magazines. She had been in some of Joe's magazines over a period of 2 years already, and Joe didn't even realize it.
So what were the magazines? Muscle Builder, Power?
I imagine that was it, and Mr. America was another one.
Mr. America. I have a couple of issues of Mr. America. Wow, that's interesting. So he had these signs, literally and figuratively, a sign of her for a Kodak sign, and then she was already working for his magazine. That's interesting.
Yeah. When I talked to Betty, I asked her, I said, tell us how you met Joe and how it was different than the movie, because it was different than the movie. And she just said that Joe would, photo shoots was his favorite part of the whole magazine publishing business. And after photo shoots, he would be exhausted, and he would take everybody out to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And they were at dinner repeatedly, multiple times with other people. And then one night, he did what most of us guys might do. Can I drive you home?
Mm-hmm.
And he did. And she said they talked for a long time and got to know each other, and he gave her a little peck on the cheek.
Ah.
And then they saw each other again after that, but it didn't get real hot and heavy. He was married to his publishing business, and he barely had time for a woman. I think he and I talked about that one time.
Mm-hmm.
He said that it was so. I said, you're driving your business. He said, no, this business is driving me.
Yeah.
And I'm closer to it than it's part of me, and it's closer than a woman or something, or more than being married to somebody. My magazine is everything. It's his life. It was his life to him. And not just the magazine, but the vitamin business and all the other ancillary businesses that he was involved with,
Yeah. It seems like when he was smart enough to ask Betty to marry him and she accepted, that things really started to take off even more. She was a very smart businesswoman, going back to that Billy Eyelash article talking about how Betty Brosmer was one of the first women to retain the rights to her own images.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So a good woman, or if you're a female and you bring in a husband into the relationship, you work better together and you can move that business forward even more efficiently and quickly than by yourself. You get energized, by the other person.
It's certainly been the case with my wife and I. Like many artists, she's my personal manager.
Awesome.
And I would actually leave the room. She'd be on the phone with my booking agent in New York. We were living in Las Vegas. And I was leaving the room because I would have grabbed deals and my wife was driving for the highest dollar. And I didn't want to be there for the negotiations, man, because my wife is tough.
Good.
Betty's tough too.
Nice. Well, it's obviously been very helpful to Joe's, publishing empire.
Joe, I mentioned that Joe was hardcore in the gym. And I remember, I don't know if I said this on the previous interviews. I don't know. I had just gotten done doing some pec work or something, and I was going like this. And Joe said, I'll never forget his exact words because I just love this. He said, "What's the matter?" He looked up from his own set, And he said, "What's the matter? You in love with your own tit? Quit feeling and get back to work."
See, that's something I didn't know about Joe. I had no idea that he approached his workouts that hardcore and was tough on other people around him. I love that.
Oh, yeah. And another thing I want to tell you about Joe in the gym was there's a story, and you've probably read it too. And anybody that's interested in Joe Weider has probably read this. I can't remember which famous bodybuilding celebrity it was who said that Joe went into gold, probably it was Gold's Gym or something, and picked up a pair of 45-pound dumbbells and started doing alternate curls.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him do that in his own garage gym, and when he was about 85 years old. I saw him do that. Now they might have been 40s, but they were up there.
That with no warm up, he just jumped in there and started curling them, alternate curls.
No real warm up, not when I saw him, and not when the account occurred years earlier too.
My gosh, that's impressive.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of us are built, the way we're built is good for certain types of exercises, right?
That's very true. You know, I've never been a really strong bench presser. I've approached 365, but you know, there's guys out there that just warm up with that. And I've been very strong in other moves like squats or deadlifts. So yeah, you know, curls is another thing that I'm pretty good at. But then there's certain lifts that I'm not, and bench pressing and overhead pressing is another one. It's not my thing in terms of heavy weights.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, like Arnold said in this magazine I was just reading from the 70s, I think it was a Muscle Builder Power. It might have been the one I sent you the picture of with Joe's office and all the artwork in there.
Yeah.
Arnold talked about, you know, I don't feel anything when I lift 295 pounds overhead. I don't feel anything in the muscle. So I go lighter so that I can make sure I'm feeling getting a pump. And, you know, that's what bodybuilding is, right? You're either a weightlifter and you're going to go really heavy, or you're a bodybuilder. And Steve Reeves was a prime example. He went really light on things. He went really light and people said, wow, he's not very strong. But then you saw him, maybe you've seen the picture of Steve Reeves doing the Steve Reeves style deadlift where he's holding the big thick plates and 400-pound deadlift, you know, with his hands on the plates, not on the bar. So, you know, it's bodybuilding. You got to go a little bit lighter. So speaking of Steve Reeves, I want to show you something. I got to close the loop on something. So in our first or second video, gang, people that are watching, and Flint, this was Steve Reeves' belt. I mentioned this before. And he had many belts. This is one of them. On this belt, do you remember me showing you what he wrote on here?
I couldn't make it out. And
okay, got it. So this says S. Bear. That must have been his pet name from, you know, I don't know, his wife, Aline, or maybe Deborah, who was his girlfriend. But over here is some writing, and it's really hard to read. So that was kind of bothering me. So a day or two ago, Flint, I found this magazine in my stash, big, huge stash of Steve Reeves stuff. I want to bring this closer so you can see it. It's called Images of Steve Reeves. And on page 6, I'll be doggone, Flint, if this same quote on the weight belt is also in the book here. So now I'm going to read it just to close that loop. It's on page 16. So in the book here it says, if you can conceive a goal, believe you can achieve it, work toward it, then you will realize it. And so I said, as I read that, Flint, I was like, man, that sounds really familiar. And I got this belt, and that's exactly, almost word for word, what it says on here. So Steve had written himself that same quote that I just read to you, and that's what's on this belt.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I think so too. So
what a wonderful thing that you found it in that book.
Isn't that crazy? What were the odds of that? Because I don't know if he ever wrote that quote in any other book or magazine. So I just happened to be looking through it. And by the way, I have an Instagram account. I'd love for you to follow it, and I'd love to follow you if you're on Instagram. My Instagram account is Steve Reeves Hercules, and you'll see a lot of stuff like what I just talked about. Like I just posted some pictures from this magazine. I have posted screenshots of you and I, and then a link to our latest video on YouTube. So I don't know if you're on Instagram, but if you are, you might want to check that out because you're on it as well.
Cool. You know, I think I mentioned to you, but I don't think I mentioned to your viewers that Betty never posed with Steve Reeves, and there
Yeah.
were 2 close calls. And she was supposed to be on a couple of covers, but one of them was Steve had to cancel because of Hercules.
And who was the guy that took Steve's place? Because you showed me the picture, I think, or maybe
Oh,
I Googled it.
yeah. I can't think of it. It begins with a D.
Well, I'll find the picture and put it to accompany our video here so the viewers will know who we're talking about. But I looked that up on Google, and maybe you sent me the picture, I can't remember. But yeah, you can see that cover that Steve was supposed to be in, but he couldn't, right, because of Hercules. I've seen pictures of Steve and Betty, like, you know, arm in arm at, you know, awards and things like that. So I know they were good friends.
Yeah, yeah. I think she wanted to pose with him. I think she was disappointed when
Yeah,
he prevented them from doing that.
yeah.
So
I think if it were me, I would have taken the opportunity to pose with Betty rather than the role in Hercules, right? That's just
yeah,
the
let
move.
me tell you, even with the suit on, when when I'm standing next to Betty in family shots and different things like that, it's just such a total honor. It's just I can't believe it. It's there's pictures of me, you know, of me with Lou and Carla, his wife, Jack LaLanne, and I'm standing next to Betty with my arm around Betty, and I'm just thinking, wow, you know.
Very, very lucky, Flint. And, you know, like you said, though, they've been very fortunate to meet you too because for their love of music. I have those pictures, though, that you're talking about on my desktop, the ones that you just described. So it's really, really cool.
I
I
have
think,
to just mention another Joeism. You got to remember now, my wife and I loved Joe. I mean, we loved him with all our hearts. You know, he was a dear, dear, kind friend. See these teeth? Joe,
yeah,
gave me those teeth. I was asking a photographer, Bob Gardner, at the dinner table if he could touch up some promo shots of me at the time because my teeth were not straight, and I didn't have the time or the money to get it together.
yeah.
And he said, "Oh yeah, they could be touched up. Yeah, I can fix them for the photos." And the next day, Joe said, "Come here. I'm gonna underwrite a trip to the dentist for you. Trip to the what do you call the guy that does all the implants and stuff?"
Orthodontist,
Yeah,
dental
yeah,
surgeon.
yeah. And he said, "I'm going to pay for this, and this is the last I ever want to hear about it. You got that?"
Wow. Holy moly.
No, I know. But I
Wow.
want to leave you with that because of that thing about, you know, what's the matter? You're in love with your own tit. You know, he
Yeah.
used to do stuff like that. And I remember thinking, oh, Scott, you know, I've never been very big and I've never been very strong. I've worked out since I was 19, which is a long time. And, but I've never been really serious about it. But sometimes I would go through seasons when I would be pretty serious about it. I'd try to cover all ends, get plenty of sleep and eat right. And I'd feel that my muscles lagging and sagging, and I think I want to eat. And one time we were with Joe, and it was like kind of like lunchtime, and we were busy doing something, and we were kind of like missing lunch. And I said, "Yeah, you know, I got to eat something." And I thought he was going to say, "That's right, you're a bodybuilder, and you have to eat." But that's not what he said. He said, "Relax, your muscles aren't going anywhere."
Yeah, that's what I would have thought too. It'd be like, yeah, you got to eat, man. Every 3 hours, you got to eat. Otherwise, your muscles are going to go catabolic and they'll disappear. That's interesting. Well, you know,
Yeah.
I know back in the 70s, you know, when they trained at Gold's Gym, after the workout, they didn't all rush to get their protein drinks. They then walked down to the beach and laid out on the beach. Now, maybe they had a piece of fruit or something. I don't know. But we now live in a time where if you don't eat, you know, within 30 minutes of working out, you're going to go catabolic. So interesting to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. He was just priceless. I'll try to come up with more little things he said like that.
Well, you're a wealth of information and you got all these great stories. So you probably won't have to try too hard. I've seen some of your pictures, and that last picture, you really accomplished, you know, some really good stuff physique wise. You know, I think you're just wearing posing trunks. You got a great tan. I don't know where that was taken.
That was taken on a cruise ship where I was entertaining, and my wife took it. I said, "Hey, honey, I probably, you know, I'm all oiled up anyway with suntan oil. Why don't you shoot a shot of me?"
It's a
And I don't
great.
know anything about posing, so I'm just standing there, you know, trying to get that lat spread a little bit. But I didn't know, you know, how to do it. But yeah, no, Joe was very motivating. He would motivate you, and he would be very kind. He had a real kind streak. So did Franco.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about those guys is if you were like an amateur or even a beginner or something, they would compliment you. They
Mm-hmm.
would smell you. They would say, Joe, one time we were at his kitchen table. He said, "Hey, your forearms are looking good, man." And, you
Wow.
know,
Yeah.
and they were just pretty regular. They weren't, you know,
Yeah, but he didn't have to say that, so that was very nice.
no, he didn't. And Franco was the same way.
Must have had a very high EQ, emotional quotient. You know, you have IQ for intelligence, but you got to also know how to get along with people, and that EQ is what that's all about, is putting yourself in the other person's shoes, making them feel good, you know, not making it all about yourself all the time. Sounds like Franco and Joe had that pretty.
I never heard either of those two guys ever put anybody down or say anything in the remotely critical of
Wow,
any.
that's pretty rare.
Yeah, it seemed like if they both were the kind of people who would say, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
Right, right. Well, that might be a good place to stop for the day. Um, Anything else you want to add, Flint?
Not really, Scott. I sure enjoy these interviews.
I do too. And guys, we have two other videos prior to this that are chock full of all kind of entertaining stories that Flint has so graciously shared with us. And so I really appreciate that, Flint.
uh,
All right.
well,
Well, visit flintlong.com, and Flint and I will be back in a week or two. Who knows? We'll have more stories, more Steve Reeves stuff, and can't wait to do it again, Flint.
good. Me too.
Thank you,
Take
buddy.
care.
All right.
Yeah.